Hi, I'm Katie Escueda.
I'm Blake Hadley.
And I'm Kate Hoffbauer, and today we're going to go through our KINE Class 323 video presentation with you. Today we are going to discuss a men and a women's college basketball game. The women's college basketball game that we watched was University of Michigan versus Notre Dame. It was played at the Chrysler Arena in Ann Arbor, Michigan on November 23, 2019 at 10 a.m. We watched it on the Big Ten Network. The score of the game was 76-74 with Notre Dame coming out with the win.
The basketball game we watched was also Michigan, and they played Gonzaga at the Imperial Arena in the Bahamas. And this took place on November 29th, 2019 at 11 a.m., and we watched it on ESPN. The score was 64-82 with Michigan taking away the victory.
To our data collection, we quantitatively found that the Michigan women's basketball team had about 4,000 people in attendance at the game. This took up 32% of the arena, which usually holds up to 12,707 people. When it came to the men's basketball team this season, the lowest capacity that they've had is 89%, with most of the games coming in with 100%. And this is interesting because the Michigan women's team is ranked in the top 21, while the men's team is unranked. So it's unfortunate that the women's team is having a great season, yet they're not getting the recognition that they deserve like the men's team. Analyzing the men and the women's college basketball games, we found three core concepts emphasized between the two matches. These being sport entertainment, gender as organization, and female athlete paradox. When analyzing the men and women's college basketball matches, the first concept that we felt that was portrayed between the two games was sportainment. Sportainment is used to describe televised sports as the equivalent of a TV movie that is based on true stories such as athlete and team history, performance, and enticing gossip pertaining to the players or coaches involved in the game. It's common in commercial power and performance sports because it feeds and extends storylines that maintain audience interest even when action in the event is boring for many viewers. There is a significant difference in how entertaining the men and the women's games are when compared to each other. There are many reasons for this. First off, women's basketball is played in 4 quarters, whereas men's basketball is played in 2 halves. This means more ads, more meaningless commentary, and more commercials are involved in the women's game, which interrupts the flow of the game, making it less entertaining than the men's match. Additionally, the men's announcers expressed more enthusiasm and excitement than the announcers for the women's game. Thus, there is a difference in audio commentary and play-by-play expression when you listen to the men and the women's games on TV. The announcers for the men's Michigan vs. Gonzaga game used embellished language and built excitement for the crowd when players made good shots or got good rebounds, whereas the women's announcers used very matter-of-fact commentary and did not generate much enthusiasm. Additionally, the men's game was broadcasted on ESPN, whereas the women's game was broadcasted on BTN, which is a significantly less number of viewers tune in than ESPN does. Lastly, the men's game was more aesthetically pleasing than for the viewers tuning in because there were more cameramen on the court, enabling the game to be shown from many different angles, creating a very real-time experience for those watching the game at home. Whereas the women's game was shown from fewer angles. This made the game less engaging and less of an experience than the men's game. Watching the men's game appeared to be a TV movie experience unlike the women's.
The second course concept that we noticed was gender as an organization, and this refers to the ways that positions, roles, and responsibilities are structured around gender. This is seen in how the women's team has a women's coach and the men's team has a men's coach. Women's college basketball also has 4 quarters, while the men only have two halves. This could be seen as indirectly stating how women need more rest than the men do. The vast majority of men's teams have men's coaches, and the majority of women's teams have women's coaches. Males in sports have often seemed to be more authoritative and aggressive, and having a women's coach at a high-ranked men's team might not bring the same enthusiasm as a men's aggressiveness would bring to the table. On the other hand, having a mean and tough men's coach be in charge of a women's team might give the opposite effect, and the women players might be intimidated. In terms of the quarter length, Women are viewed as having less endurance and less genetically given strength, which is why they could be viewed as needing quarters instead of halves. On top of the desire for more ads and media discipline, as Kate talked about. Gender as an organization, today's sporting positions are hugely dependent on gender. Top college basketball coaches are strictly known to be men, as they are still stereotypically expected to be the leaders for successful men's teams. As for women, gender as an organization suggests that women would coach lower skill teams and be expected to focus their careers on coaching women's teams and not men's. Lately, this movement is being slowly overturned as women are taking interest into coaching men's teams as well. In addition to being NBA referees and assistant coaches for NBA teams, women have come a long way in eliminating this stereotype. In addition, the top coaches from basketball during March Madness are all known as being male, with not one Sweet 16 team in the men's tournament ever being coached by a woman. When we think of March Madness, we probably only think of the men's tournament, while the women's games are being played with little appreciation. Women are also steadily making an appearance in the next level of NBA games, with multiple NBA teams having a female assistant coach on the team, as well as many female referees being scattered across the league.
For our last concept, we found female athlete paradox as a prominent observation when comparing the two games. This quote by Nelson I found to be very insightful, as it reads, "Femininity, by definition, is not large, not imposing, not competitive. Feminine women are not ruthless, not aggressive, not victorious. It's not feminine to have a killer instinct, to want to win with all your heart and soul to win. Femininity is about appearing beautiful and vulnerable and small. It's about winning male approval." This quote by Nelson is a traditional view of femininity in which female athletes were frowned upon to showcase their full talents and abilities, to make sure they encompass all the traits of what a female is supposed to be or act like. This also goes with our other concept in class of hegemonic femininity, in that women are to follow the said conditions or characteristics that women are supposed to have in their society. However, watching the Michigan and Notre Dame women's basketball game, I felt that the women showcased their strengths and did not hold back in order to stay feminine. The Michigan and Notre Dame game was also very close in the end, with Notre Dame barely holding on to the lead. The women to me clearly showed that they were passionate about the sport and wanted to fight hard to win. I saw many instances in the game, like the picture to the left, with the female athletes not being afraid to fight for the ball and to get rough. When it came to attire, I saw many of the women wearing knee pads, which to me shows that they aren't afraid to slide in order to fight to get the ball. I found these women to be empowering in that they came to play instead of pleasing others with a feminine demeanor. In our midterm, we watched a video by Allison Felix, where she left a message that I felt was well represented in these female athletes, and it stated that to forget what other people think or the standard of beauty, your passion is enough. It is time to deviate from the female athlete paradox and to have these female athletes represented as the true athletes that they are.
Watching the two basketball games and discussing 3 course concepts, our final thoughts are to continue to challenge the boundaries of gender orthodox ideology, and that also the athletic abilities of women are not related to the amount of media coverage that they get. The media is a business and they simply care about the money. They don't care about the players, but more importantly that the viewers they get. There are some super athletic and amazing women's sporting events that they miss out on the coverage simply due to the sporting entertainment industry being focused more on money than on equal coverage. This is tied into the fact that ESPN revealed that only 2% of their coverage is women's sports. ESPN is a very popular sporting source, and this 2% is not related to the toxic masculinity among the ESPN employees, but rather the desires of society.
For those of you watching this video, we have a few questions that we want you to reflect on. Number 1. Why do you think that females aren't considered qualified enough to be head coaches, especially of a male team? Second, what are some ways in which we can increase the coverage of women's sporting events? And thirdly, do you think that females are being accepted into the world of sports more without having to uphold a certain feminine quality?
Thank you for watching, and here is a list of references that we used for our video project. Thanks.